Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Shall we get going?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, I wanted to do why uh, why should we consider Plato to be radical? Okay, this is what I wanted to do with you today a bit before we make the transition to um, Aristotle. Okay, the reason why we should be there isn't one reason. There are a few reasons why we should be considering Plato to be a radical thinker. Uh, Radical for his times, and in that sense, way ahead of his time. Okay, do I start or shall we wait for a minute or two? Akshay,
Sir,
should I start or should we? Anyway, I think I'll start. Um, so there are many reasons, and before I go to that particular reason, I must make one particular point, which is that there is a British, where everybody gets called a philosopher these days. If you even talk about other people's philosophy, you become a philosopher. And in my days in the hostel, uh, my friends used to mock me by calling me uh, corridor philosopher. They said he is the philosopher of our corridor. So everybody is a philosopher, but this man has some credentials. His name is uh, he's actually professor of philosophy. He also has some original ideas to his credit. He's an Englishman, and he has said that all European um, what is that? Philosophy is a footnote to Plato. Okay, this is what, sorry, this is what was said by Alfred North Whitehead. He said that all European philosophy is ultimately a footnote to Plato. It might seem like a bit of an exaggeration, but actually, if you sit and consider the things that were said by uh, Whitehead, uh, Professor Whitehead, if you like, it does seem like this statement is very pertinent. I'll just say, remember this, and we'll kind of return back to this again and again. Now, yesterday I asked you to go to this website, which I have been managing, not managing, I've been running. Uh, there is a company called Azri Software Solutions, very decent people, friends of mine. They have given me space to run this particular website, uh, which I actually use in order to uh, put various different kinds of articles. Uh, I don't know if any of you has seen it. There are research articles in it. There are okay. There are research articles in it. There are lessons in it, and then there are perspective uh, articles in it as well. And I have also given links to some of the important things which will be of use to students. This site has been around for more than 10 years now, and I created it as a resource for uh, my students, meaning students of Osmania University, because one of the things that people have constantly complained to me is that what you teach, we don't find in the books that we read. Uh, and so I thought it might not be a bad idea to put that lessons section and put a number of things. Now, in the lessons, most of the things will say collated from different various sources, which is not exactly inaccurate, but actually the stuff is curated by me. A lot of it is also written by me, but I didn't want that to be like one man show, so um, I put it as collated from various sources. Now, if you go to the website, you'll see that the lesson on Plato has been posted yesterday. This has been lying with me for probably 10 years. Okay. And this was a time when I think I wasn't, uh, what should I say? I wasn't extremely clear on a few things about Plato. I had my own philosophical doubts, and the material, when I read it after I put it together, it seemed like there were some kind of inconsistencies in it. And a lot of that came from my own skepticism about how I dealt with many of the ideas. Uh, so, the point that I'm trying to make is that I thought I shouldn't put this out immediately, because if I put it out immediately, then the problem will be uh, that, you know, what should I say? The problem will be that um, I might transmit confusions. So I kind of reworked on it a bit. It's a lot more consistent now. And it is, but I still put a caveat there. And the caveat very clearly says that there might be inconsistencies because the sources are different. Some of them not consistent with the other sources. So, and I have removed some parts of what I have taught you now. I had actually removed them um, some time ago, and I really don't have it in me to sit and add those things again, because my problem is that I'm already working with different books. Uh, I'm actually working on 4 books, and I don't really have the time to sit and rework and rewrite and all that kind of stuff. So you will, but it is still, the material is okay. You will find that material, and even the material that you need for the other paper, political ideologies, um, that one also will be something that you can find in the lesson section. Now, I really don't know what's happening with your Indian uh, political system. I think that's what the paper is called, isn't it? Uh, you will find some really, really good articles um, on the Indian political system in the research section, not in the lessons section. In the research section, you will find pretty good articles on the Indian system. uh, political system, that is, sorry. Most of them are written by a very famous professor and an authority on India. Uh, his name is Professor Mahendra Prasad Singh. Uh, that's how the articles will appear in his name. Uh, and then there are also articles by Professor Balbir Arora, um, again, who's a very reputed scholar, very, very reputed scholar, my teacher as well. I'm proud to say that. So you can have a look at those in the research section. Uh, and there are some articles by there are some articles by Samir Kumar Das. Samir Kumar Das also uh, has a few articles there, and if you look at all those articles, you will find that there are some pretty decent articles uh, there on India as well. Unfortunately, somehow international relations is a bit underrepresented. Uh, but that's up. I'll try to. It's not easy to get people to give you their work. Okay, it's not at all easy. It's just that it's my good fortune that I enjoy a bit of goodwill with a few of these people, and as a result of that, those articles are all there. Okay, so if you're going to be reading Plato, please read him very carefully. Okay, because there are some details which I have not actually bothered to talk about, and there are other details um which uh, will be there, uh, which won't be there, but I have talked about in class. So you'll have to put both together. Anyway, so why should we consider Plato to be radical? That is the question. Now, we have established that there is going to be a rule of philosopher kings. We have established that there are going to be there is going to be this ideal republic that will take shape. Uh, Now, what are the striking aspects of the ideal republic? If you look at the striking aspects of the ideal republic, you will find the absence of slaves. Okay, go back, look at the segmentation of society. Where are the slaves? Okay, there are no slaves. There are absolutely, there's no mention of slaves anywhere. And in Plato's own time, slaves were present in uh, ancient Greece. Okay, and Aristotle has later on been much maligned and for his defense of slavery, but you must understand that the Aristotelian system of slavery is completely different from how we normally understand slavery. So, one of the very, very striking features of the Republic in Plato, or Plato's Republic, if you want, is the absence of slaves, which is what makes him a man who's way, way ahead of his times. Okay, and that is the reason why uh, Alfred Whitehead basically claims that most of the issues that have been dealt with European philosophy right into the modern period have been issues that actually were dealt with by Plato. Okay, so this is the first thing that you should look at in order to say that he's radical. There's no slavery. Okay, there is a complete absence of slaves. Second, equality of status to women. Now, if you look at the Greek civilization was robustly patriarchal. And again, if you go back to his own student, Aristotle, Aristotle did not consider women to be the equals of men. He didn't consider them to be the equals of men. He basically argued uh, that women were inferior. And here there is no defense of him like we have in the case of slavery. And I'll tell you what the defense of slavery is when we come to Aristotle. But here, there is no defense of Aristotle in any way, saying that his perception of inequality of women is different from our perception of inequality of women in the modern period or in the later, in the medieval period. No, there is no such difference. He believed that women were inferior and that they should not be given any great responsibilities. But if you look at Plato, in all the segments, right up to the philosopher king segment, right up to there are women present everywhere. Okay, there are women present everywhere, and they are there even in governance, because the philosopher king is not one person, but it is that entire group of people who are considered to be cerebral, or those who are considered to be mentally uh, more evolved than the others. Okay, so if you look at that, you find that there are women there, and the equality of status to women in Greece at of that particular time, and in Greece of the later period, is also completely unheard of. It is completely unheard of. And well, here you have this man who's talking about the equality of status as far as women are concerned. He didn't see them as being any less uh, in terms of their intelligence, any less in terms of their ability to do the same kind of work that the men would do. Okay, now if you look at the other thing which is uh, radical about Plato is this emphasis on education. No Greek thinker talked about education at all. Plato is perhaps the first thinker in the whole world to emphasize on the importance of education. And I told you that this is not inconsistent. This is not inconsistent epistemology, which is that all knowledge is inborn. Okay, if all knowledge is inborn, then why do you need education? That is the question, right? If all knowledge is innate, what is the purpose of this education that you're talking about? We are already knowledgeable. He says all knowledge is innate, but everybody doesn't have the ability to recollect what they have learned in the realm of forms. Okay, they don't have the ability to recollect that in the exact same way as another person. Okay, and if you go by the example that I had given to you from the modern period, which is Noam Chomsky, Chomsky says you need an external stimulus to make, to activate the structures of knowledge that are there in everybody's head. Okay, that is one. Second thing is Chomsky will say everybody has structures of uh, language in their head, but he doesn't make a claim anywhere that everybody can use language, whatever that language may be, with the same facility. Some people are excellent writers. I don't know if any of you have read Jawaharlal Nehru. If you haven't, please read The Discovery of India. He's an amazing writer, really amazing writer. There are very few people who have that kind of, what should I say, that kind of control over language, the choice of appropriate words to describe situations or to analyze situations. He is simply quite amazing. Even his letters to his daughter, Indira Gandhi, that he wrote from the jails whenever he was in jail, those letters also will show you a tremendous clarity of uh, communication. So everybody has language structures in their head, but that doesn't mean that everybody has the same ability to use language. Some people use language much better than other people. Okay, and if you another writer who is a tremendous writer, a person who has just been relegated to only 1 day per year, which is Teachers' Day. If you read the writings of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, if you read his commentaries on the Upanishads, if you read his commentaries on Indian philosophy, on Vedanta, his English, I think, will put a lot of Englishmen to shame. That is the quality of his English. So these are all great writers. So you can't possibly say just because everybody has structures of language in their head, they are all going to be equally competent in the usage of the language. Some people write very well, but are not very good speakers. One person that I can think of is Professor Ratna Naidu, who was a sociologist. She's a great scholar. She's an absolutely great scholar, wonderful writer, but a horrible speaker. Not somebody that I would say is a pleasure to listen to. And I've heard speakers who are amazing to listen to, but can't write. One person who can do both, and for your Indian government paper, please read his book. There are a couple of books that he wrote from a theoretical vantage. Uh, Politics in India is one, and the other one is the imagined institutions of India. Sudipto Kaviraj. Okay, it's written Sudipta, Sudipta, but pronounced Sudipto because he's a Bengali. Sudipto Kaviraj has this great facility with language, both in writing and in speaking. Such people are very, very rare. Nehru was one of them. Radhakrishnan was another. And the one that I personally heard uh, and read, I was a direct student of Sudipto Kaviraj, and I think he's peerless when it comes to writing and speaking. An amazing man, absolutely amazing man. So you can't possibly say just because we have structures of language, everybody is capable of using it in the same way. Doesn't work like that. Now, that is exactly what is applicable to Plato's system of education. What Plato is doing, and this is the radical aspect of Plato, is that he's trying to create conditions. He's trying to create uniform conditions for all people so that their abilities can blossom. Okay? He's basically trying to create uniform conditions for people's abilities to blossom. That is the significance of the system of education. The system of education is meant to bring out the best. And like I said, everybody will not have the same kind of abilities, though they're all born with innate knowledge. Ultimately, abilities differ. And I said it depends upon the ability of the mind, and not here, we're not using the mind as the equivalent of the brain. The mind is that mm, thing which is elusive for definition, even though we have this uh, situation where uh, we often find Bill Gates being quoted, and that the mind is the software and the brain is the hardware. Okay. It does serve its purpose as an analogy. Yes, I'll agree to that, but that is only a very limited analogy. Uh, if you go into the depth of things, you will find that the mind is the inexplicable part. People have been trying to break it down into neurons, into synapses. Uh, well, but it still eludes our comprehension. The one part of human existence that is still very, very elusive is the human mind. We don't know how it functions, why it functions the way it does. So, if you look at, uh, if you basically look at his system of education, it is not inconsistent with his idea that that knowledge is inborn. What he's trying to do is to create the what should I say? He's trying to create a situation wherein the best out of someone can come, somebody's talent can blossom. Those are the things he's looking at. Okay, those are the things that he's looking at. And if you look at those, you will find that Plato is somebody who is again extremely radical, because he is trying to create that ideal world, which for him is the real world, the world of perfection. Plato doesn't want anything less than perfect. He is not willing to compromise on perfection. And that's what makes him completely radical again. Now, the next point is there is a relative egalitarianism. Why am I saying relative? Um, it is not an absolute egalitarian society that he's creating, but it is also not a completely hierarchical society. Again, the republic and the society that it has is something that eludes, uh, general categories of definition that we are used to. We are used to a number of categories of definition, but what Plato creates in the Republic escapes all those categories that we have created. So he doesn't fit into taxonomy of any of the things, or taxonomy of the kind that we are used to. Okay, at one level, it does seem that he's saying that, there is the abdomen, then there is a thorax, and then there is the head, or whatever, call it whatever you like. But where is he saying that you don't need the abdomen? Where is he saying that? He's not saying that. Very much to the contrary. If you look at the system of justice that he has put in place, the system of justice is the maintenance of a symmetry. And the symmetry is possible only if even the abdomen segment people do what they are supposed to do. So you don't look at the society that is there in you do not look at the society uh, from that particular point of view. Okay, what you look at is uh, this society is almost organic. When I say organic, it's like an organism. It's like within an organism, people will say Aristotle is biological, Plato is not biological, he's mathematical. Yeah, Plato is mathematical, no doubt about it. But look at the society in the Republic. It's like an organism. It's like an organism because in an organism, every part has to perform its duties. Okay. And the kind of solidarity that organisms have are very different from mechanical solidarities. Okay. mechanical solidarities are where you can first create the parts. I mean, uh, look at any appliance, look at let's say, uh, a car. Somebody manufactures the tires, somebody manufactures the wheel rims, somebody manufactures the suspension components, engine components are manufactured by various people, and all these things come together. They are put together, and one car emerges. That is not how Plato's society is. Plato's society is created like an organism. Organisms are not created. Okay, here are hands. We'll kind of put these together. Now, where are the legs? Okay, there are legs. So put them. Who made the heart? Somebody made the heart, put the heart in. No, we don't talk about that like that, do we? That's not how a body is. A body is organic. Any organism is born whole, it is not assembled. So, the nature of society that you see in society, in the Republic in Plato, is something which is completely organic. You can't say the kidney is more important than the liver. You can't say the liver is more important or the heart is more important than the brain. Well, in an organism, every organ has a role to play for the survival and the flourishing of that particular organism. So, society in Plato is organic. It is organic, which means that all all our organs are important. That is a relative equality. I say relative equality because, of course, when somebody is saying that people are the cerebral class and they are in charge of slightly more important duties, such as taking care of governance of the republic and maintaining uh, the perfection that Plato wanted. In that sense, there is a little bit of difference in the what should we say, importance attributed to different roles. Admittedly, yes, but that bit of difference is not so huge that you think that these people can exist without the others. You can't. It's like saying, I'll be a king, but I don't have a kingdom. You can't be a king without a kingdom. You need your subjects, you need not a very good analogy. Please remember that analogies have their limitations. So while yes, there is a prioritizing of people who are in the who are involved in the governance of the republic over the others, the philosopher kings, uh, well, but still they can't function without the others, because society is like this organism, and that is what makes it relatively egalitarian or equalitarian. If you want, egalitarian is French. Égalité in French is equal. And talking about French, who watches tennis? Does anyone watch tennis matches, or does anyone play tennis? No? Okay. Then let's forget what I was going to tell you. It's a I was going to tell you something which is hilarious, but that'll be hilarious only if you know uh, the game of tennis. Anyway, is anybody here at all? I don't think, or have the people just put this and do your work
Yes,
and come
sir.
back?
We are there.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just think people, put these and go to sleep or finish other works that you have to do. And yeah, anyway, so let's come back to this. So these are all the qualities that make Plato a radical thinker. Okay, these are all the qualities that make Plato a radical thinker, and these are still issues that people are grappling with, and therefore, I think Alfred North Whitehead, uh, Professor Whitehead, was not off the mark when he said that all European philosophy is a footnote to Plato. Plato is that towering individual, towering philosopher who dwarfs everyone else. I mean, look at Aristotle. Aristotle is somebody who spoke and worked and uh, talked about far more things than Plato did. But yet, the influence of Aristotle is not the same as the influence of Plato on European philosophy. Now, having made that particular point, let me come down to an allegation that is made by Karl Popper, who's a 20th century scientist. Now, Karl Popper wrote a 2 volume book called open societies, open society, and its enemies. Who does he start with? He starts with Plato as being an enemy of open society and comes right down to Marx, Karl Marx. Okay. Does anyone have an idea as to what an open society is?
No, sir.
Right. An open society is based in individualism and prioritizing the freedoms of individuals over everything else. This is also, sorry, equated to liberalism. Okay. Now, what is individualism? Individualism is, I don't want to use the term socialism because socialism now has different connotations. But let's pick up something from Aristotle for a minute. Aristotle said, what is good for the society is good for the individual. Okay. In Plato, you have the assertion, not very openly, but an assertion is made that the existence, when I said that, society is an organism, if you say society is an organism, then you're saying you will consider society prior to the individual. So you will say something like this. Plato doesn't say it, but he will not disagree with me if he hears me say this. If there is no society, there is no individual. This is the system of thought that existed all over the ancient world, right up to the modern period in Europe. This is the belief. If there is no society, there is no individual. If you didn't get that, let me give you an example. Let me ask you a question. Does Switzerland have an army?
Yes, sir.
It has?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I was told that it
Don't know,
doesn't.
sir.
Don't know or no, no. I was told that
Don't
Switzerland
know.
Switzerland doesn't have an army because it's a neutral country. It said we don't want to be part of NATO, we don't want to be part of the Warsaw Pact, and therefore Switzerland doesn't have an army.
So Nepal.
Nepal has an army.
Okay.
Yeah, not a very powerful army, but yes, it has. Switzerland doesn't have an army. Okay, now let us try to consider this. If there is no army, can you have soldiers? Akshay?
No, sir.
Hmm?
Huh?
Sorry, Akshay, I couldn't hear you.
Sir, I think if there is no soldier, there is no army.
That is okay. But if there is no army, can you have a soldier? You think if there is no soldier, there is no army. Okay. So who do you set up first? Hmm? Let's say, Rachna, you're a capitalist and an entrepreneur. So you want to start a company.
Okay.
So do you start the company and then recruit people into the company, or you recruit people and then say I'll set up a company?
For starting of company.
Yeah. If you don't start a company, you don't know what you need people for. Depending on what it is that you are setting up as a company, depending entirely upon that, you have a situation where you will say, all right, now I'm setting up, let's say, a software company. What will the software company do? The software company will basically allow other companies. This is what the ERP uh, companies did. Okay, you all must have heard of SAP, SAP. Uh, you must have heard of BAN. BAN was a very big company, one of the first IT companies to come to Hyderabad, and it was all over Hyderabad. But unfortunately, the BAN ERP package crashed, meaning it didn't deliver what it was supposed to deliver to Boeing. Boeing is the manufacturer of planes. After spending $64 million, uh, Boeing realized that they were no closer to having an enterprise resource uh, management. Um, and so they terminated the contract with Ban and sued them. And therefore, Ban closed down. Then you had another thing called PeopleSoft, which was also enterprise resource planning, but it concentrated more on HR, and people found that that package also was actually not working very well. Now it seems like the only ERP package that is left is SAP. So if you do talk about SAP, then Rachna will say, listen, you're a company who is into, let us say, manufacture of pressure cookers. Why do you want to get into looking at your resources and the management of those people's resources or whatever? So outsource as that. We'll take care of the HR, human resource aspect. You take care of uh, manufacturing. You make your pressure cookers or whatever you want to make, bread toasters, right? And we'll take care of managing your human resource. So you'll outsource it. Okay. So these people will do the recruitment, they will do payrolls, they will take care of pay distribution. All this will be done by an HR management firm. Okay. So that is where you say, this is my core competency. I will do it for you. You develop your own core competency, which is manufacturing pressure cookers, let's say, or and bread toasters. So then when you set up a company, you'll say, all right, I'm giving the HR to somebody. You'll give them a brief. These are the kind of people that I require. These are the kind of engineers I require. So they'll take care of the people part of it. But you might need a foundry. Metal has to be done. You might need a foundry. You might need dies to stamp metal into shape. So you say, I'll buy all these things. So that is after you have made a plan to set up a company. You don't say, let me first recruit people, then I'll see what company I can start. On what basis will you recruit people if you don't have a company? So people in the ancient times and in the medieval times, they believed in the idea, they actually believed in the idea that you should prioritize society over the individual, because you are nurtured, taken care of by society. Okay, just imagine if as soon as you were born, you're left somewhere